The Arab Spring of 2011 was a time of hope and upheaval. It started with protests in Tunisia. Subsequently, people demanded change across the Arab world. Meanwhile, Syria, under the rule of Bachar al-Assad, was no exception. Then, in March 2011, peaceful protests erupted in the southern city of Deraa. Inspired by uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt, Syrian citizens called for democratic reforms and greater freedoms. They were tired of oppression and corruption. The Syrian government, led by President Bashar al-Assad, responded swiftly and brutally. Consequently, security forces opened fire on demonstrators, killing several. This act of violence shocked the nation and ignited a firestorm of anger. The initial hope for a peaceful transition, similar to what Tunisia and Egypt had experienced, was crushed. However, the Syrian people had tasted a glimpse of freedom, and they were not about to let it go without a fight. The Assad regime's violent crackdown transformed the peaceful protests into armed rebellion. Opposition groups, composed of army defectors and ordinary citizens, took up arms against the government. What began as a unified call for change quickly fractured into a complex civil war. Different factions with varying ideologies and goals emerged, further complicating the situation. As the fighting intensified, the country descended into chaos. Cities became battlegrounds, and civilians were caught in the crossfire. The Assad regime, determined to crush the opposition, employed brutal tactics, including indiscriminate shelling and airstrikes on civilian areas. Hospitals and schools were bombed, and essential resources like food and water became scarce. The world watched in horror as Syria, once a beacon of history and culture, was torn apart. The Syrian civil war became a proxy war for regional and global powers. Russia, a longtime ally of the Assad regime, intervened militarily in 2015. Their air power helped turn the tide in favor of Assad. Iran, another key supporter of the Syrian government, provided ground troops and financial aid. On the other side, the United States, along with several Western and Arab countries, provided support to certain rebel groups. This foreign intervention further fueled the conflict. It prolonged the violence and complicated any prospects for a negotiated settlement. The influx of weapons and foreign fighters heightened the already volatile situation. The Syrian people, caught in the middle of this geopolitical chess game, continued to suffer immensely. The rise of extremist groups. The Syrian civil war created a breeding ground for extremist groups like ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq, and Syria. The power vacuum, coupled with the chaos and despair, allowed ISIS to seize territory and establish a stronghold in the region. ISIS exploited the suffering of the Syrian people, recruiting fighters and spreading its ideology of terror. The rise of ISIS added another layer of complexity to the already devastating conflict. The group's brutal tactics, including beheadings, suicide bombings, and sexual enslavement, shocked the world. Their reign of terror extended beyond Syria's borders, inspiring attacks in other parts of the world and prompting international efforts to combat the group. The Syrian people, already grappling with the horrors of civil war, now faced a new and terrifying enemy. A future in ruins, the fall of Assad, and the long road ahead. After years of brutal conflict, Bashar al-Assad's regime finally fell. The country, once a vibrant tapestry of culture and history, lies in ruins. Millions of Syrians have been displaced, seeking refuge in neighboring countries and beyond. The humanitarian crisis is staggering, with countless lives lost and futures shattered. The fall of Assad marks the beginning of a new chapter for Syria. Yet the path ahead is fraught with challenges. Reconstruction efforts will be immense, requiring international cooperation and significant resources. The scars of war run deep, and healing the wounds of division and mistrust will be a long and arduous process. The future of Syria remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. The road to recovery will be long and difficult. After the fall of Assad, Syria stands at a crossroads. The destruction left behind is monumental, but amidst the rubble, there is a glimmer of hope. Communities can come together to rebuild their homes and lives. International aid organizations and NGOs can finally step in, providing much-needed assistance and resources. The Syrian diaspora, spread across the globe, can also play a crucial role in the country's recovery, sending remittances and expertise back home. Education and healthcare systems, once decimated, will slowly be restored. Schools will reopen, and children will return to classrooms, eager to learn and build a better future. Medical facilities will be reconstructed, offering essential services to those in need. However, the journey is far from over. The political landscape will remain fragile, and the threat of violence will still loom. Reconciliation and justice are critical for lasting peace, and efforts will have to be made to address the grievances and human rights abuses of the past. The international community will have to support Syria in its quest for stability and prosperity. As Syria embarks on this arduous path of rebuilding, the world watches with cautious optimism. The spirit of the Syrian people, undeterred by years of conflict, shines bright. With unity, perseverance, and global solidarity, there is hope that Syria will rise from the ashes and reclaim its place as a beacon of culture and resilience in the Middle East. If you like our content, please hit like and subscribe for more updates.